Hey YouTube, back again with another video on the E36 M3. So what started off as a pretty simple project turned into be a much longer, significantly delayed project. Let me show you a little bit of what I mean here. So here's the legendary E36 inline 6-cylinder engine. And what started off as doing something simple. I was going to put a strut tower brace on the car, and I was just checking some of the hardware on the car before I actually put it on. These are supposed to be torqued down to 16 foot-pounds, and in checking it, this little guy just snapped right off. So this one goes right here. Looks pretty sitting there. However, as I was tightening it and adjusting it, it snapped right off. So never got the strut tower brace on. Now what I need to do is actually replace the strut tower mount on the top here. So that's the whole project. So while I'm doing one, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other, get them both taken care of, and figured that's gonna be a project to make sure that, if you're doing one side, get both done at the same time here. One thing to note is this project started almost 2 months ago. And the problem was with probably shipping delays and manufacturing. I ordered the strut mounts, they were on back order. One came in, then the second one came in. When the second one came in, it was somehow a used or at least a previously installed part. I'll put a picture up here so you can see what I'm talking about. So then I had to send it back, get the new one. So again, this project started almost 2 months ago, and now I finally have the parts to do it. So thanks for bearing with me and watching some of these videos. So let's get to it, and we'll see what we have over here for the tools needed to get this done. All right, so here are all the tools that we're gonna need. Here's the strut tower brace that is going to be installed after I get the new strut mounts put on the vehicle. So I figured this is probably more eye candy than anything else for that car, but I thought it would look good, and I thought the black aluminum would look nice under there instead of something too shiny like the bright aluminum. So all I should really need, I have the new strut mounts. They're by Corteco, which my understanding is they do a lot of OEM manufacturing for BMW and others. So I decided to try these rather than going with the OEM branded strut mounts. I figure for the cost of these, if I have to redo them, I'm basically out $110 for the pair. Whereas if I got the OEM pair, it's around $450 for both. So it might be a foolish move, we'll find out. If they last for months, that's a problem. If they last for years, then it was a good gamble. Other tools I'm going to need a 13 millimeter for the top nuts on the strut mount, and then an 18 and a 19 for the 3 bolts underneath. I have my torque wrench here as needed, some removable Loctite thread locker. All right, so any good project always needs a new tool, and I used this opportunity to get a new M12 Fuel right angle impact driver by Milwaukee. So really excited to try this. I hope it works well. I think it's going to fit into a tighter area for getting to this project. So nothing like a new project and a new tool to go hand in hand. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the Porsche moved out of the garage just to make sure we have ample space, that way nothing goes wrong. So what we're going to do is get it started up. You can hear the first startup for the 2021 season. We'll get this moved out. I'm going to move this car a little bit over to give myself ample room to work on it, and then we'll get started. All right, one thing I want to do before we get this pulled apart is I want to see the exact ride height to the top of the fender here. So I have an idea of, is there any change in the height with the new strut mounts? I don't know what strut mounts are on here. They've been on the car for a long time, and I've never had to replace them. So I'm curious if these add any height or make it any lower. My thought is that being newer, and what I've read with these, it might actually add a little bit of ride height to the vehicle. So the car is pretty low right now. If it raises it just a little bit, I'm not going to be too worried, but if it's significant, I might have to look at some other options. So just want to take a quick measurement. We'll come back when the project is completely done. We'll see exactly where we are from almost the exact spot. And we're at almost exactly 25 inches. All right, so 25 inches from this spot. When we get everything disassembled, put back together, get the wheels back on, I'll measure it again and we'll see how close we are to almost exactly 25 inches to the ride height. All right, let's get started. The car's already jacked up. No sense showing you that process, but it's jacked up, ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and get the wheel off and get this first strut looked at. This clip is broken, and this is probably a 24-year-old clip on this car. I don't know if it was added when the new clips were added with these shocks or not, but I'll probably have to get some new clips. Maybe we'll do just once I order some new ones, add those on. But I have to remove these lines from the back as well. So let's get this turned. See if I can't get these clips removed in the back. Actually, I'll try this way. I have to get a screwdriver for this, just to make sure I can pry these out. Be right back. All right, I thought I could pry those with my hands, but I'm just gonna use a flathead here to help pry these loose. Just held in by this grommet right here. Just a little easier to get a little leverage. Trying not to push too hard, making sure I don't puncture any of the lines, of course. All right, and there are those. All right, so trying to get the actual brake line off, and I'm not able to, only because I realized that it's running in front of this rather than behind it, which is probably fine, but I'm gonna have to get this taken off first before I get the brake line released. So this is actually a 15 millimeter. Let me double check. Yes, so it is a 15 millimeter. So let's get this taken off. And hopefully that should be good. I also added some blocks of wood under here during our brief break I had to take just to make sure I get the 15 millimeter socket for this. We really don't want this to just hang loose when you take the strut assembly apart, so I just have some blocks of wood with some, wood shims, if you will, to support this when it finally comes out. So let's see if we can get this out here. All right, so time to use the fancy new M12 Milwaukee right angle impact wrench. I'm going to use this to actually take it off. I'm just going to use a regular socket to hold the 18 millimeter bolt in the back. That should be fine to hold it. There we go. And it just fell out of the socket. So I have to grab it here. And there it is. There's the one we need. So we'll put that off to the side. And now we'll grab the other two. Yeah, it should be 18 millimeters here. There we go, one. And let's see if I can find the second one here with some degree of ease. More challenging for me. And there's number two. Put these off to the side so we know which is which. Those two go together. And then the other one by itself. All right. Now, I might need to get some pressure off of this in order to get this bolt out. And so maybe we'll do that. Yeah, this one won't come loose. Like, there's probably just too much pressure on there. So let me see how I can get this one out. I don't know if it would loosen here. Let's find out. Switch to a shallow socket. No, that's not going to fit either. All right, so I think the only way to get this out is with a little bit of force. It's not threaded in there. It's only held on by the nut. So just a hammer. That was easier than I thought. All right. And there it is. All right. So again, we're going to put a little bit of thread locker on here as well. Once we do this, it's going to be the blue, the removable, not the permanent. So here's the piece. These will just go together. So they're here. And again, we're going to keep these so we know that these go separately from the two at the bottom, the one at the top, and then we have the one at the top over here as well. So we're going to keep all of those separate and we're good to go. All right, we got all the bolts disconnected down below. I think I originally mentioned 3, but they're actually 4. And again, that's just because of the suspension on the M3. So we get that 4th one so we can get the brake line removed. Obviously that was an important piece to get the entire strut assembly disassembled. So up top, 13 millimeter. And again, we should have 3 bolts, but since I was proactive and broke one off, we're gonna just take care of 2 on this side. So I'm going to take one side off here. We will not be reusing these because we got brand new ones with the strut mounts, so we'll just go ahead and put the new ones on when we get them. As I slowly loosen the 3rd one, the 2nd one I'm doing, see, these are tight. There must have been something just wrong with this one bolt, and that was just my luck because these other 2 were on nice and tight. This one was loose, it felt loose when I was just preparing to get the Strut Tower brace installed, and so this is the one I just kind of played with first and it completely broke. And these 2 feel really, really strong. So I probably should have just left well enough alone and not bothered with it, but what fun is that? All right, now as I and loosening this, I'm going to support the strut from underneath just so it has some place to go. And again, don't forget to put the blocks of wood under there to support the entire brake assembly, the lower control arm, and the rest of the suspension to ensure it doesn't just fall down and do any damage or stretch a brake line or anything like that. I'm going a little slower with this one just to make sure. Now that one's off. Let's see if we can take this strut assembly out in some semblance of order here in fashion. So now we can see, at least with that, it is resting on this magnificent support I have here, constructed of fabulous wood. And I just felt this drop. So that is good. Another thing to point out real quick, as we're looking at this up top, so I want to be very sure that we have this going the right way. And this does have the left, and the arrow's pointing to the front. And so we'll see that when we install the other one, just to ensure we have it going the exact correct way. Again, you can put these on opposite sides for a, I believe it's 1.5 degree additional camber on the suspension if you want to, but that's not the way this is set up. So this is the L for the left, the arrow is pointing to the front, and we'll make sure when we get these done, they go on the exact same way. And we'll double check the other side before we do that too. So just wanted to point that out. Bit of a tight fit here. I think what I'm running into is spatial issues as far as height to get these out. So it's going to take a little more wiggle room to actually get these out completely. So let me fight with this to get it out, but you get the general idea, and then I'll come right back and show you the fully removed assembly. All right, so I was able to wiggle it out. Just took a little more effort, and I didn't want to trouble you with just wrestling. I didn't see any particular order what would have made it easier or more difficult, to be honest. So just use your best judgment when removing it. There is no real need to turn the wheel at all. And essentially I brought it towards the back of the vehicle just because there was a little more room there at the back of the wheel well, and it managed to slip right out. One thing to point out, especially for anyone who's unfamiliar, mushroom. Right, so a lot of these strut mounts can have a tendency to mushroom, and on the non-M3s, you didn't have this plate. This plate was not here, and they were an aftermarket piece people could add to the strut mounts. The M3 came with these because the body structure, in an effort to continually make the car lighter and perform better, they would have to sacrifice on certain areas of the vehicle, and some of it happens to be thin sheet metal. So by adding these plates, it essentially doubles the thickness of the metal where all the suspension pressure goes on the top of the strut mount. If you don't have these on your car, if you don't have an M3, or for some reason someone redid the suspension and these aren't there, I highly recommend you getting these. They're very, very cheap to buy aftermarket. Even if they're OEM BMW with, they're very, very inexpensive. And I would strongly suggest getting these to ensure that they go on the top of your strut mount. So let's take a quick look at this. We can see this is our strut mount here that we have to replace. Very simple. Again, this is the piece that broke off, and this is the actual strut mount that we're going to replace here. One of the things that I don't really have the tools for and don't want to rent a very, very basic spring compressor. I've heard horror stories of people being injured, doing damage to your car, any number of things. So I actually have a mechanic I've used for years. And I'm gonna bring both of these assemblies over to them, have them put it on their spring compressor to get the nut off the top and get the mounts put back on. That's not a difficult process. It's really just have to pop this gasket off. The nut is on there. You unscrew it, you put the mount directly back on, you screw it on with the nut, and then you put the gasket back on. And that's really it. So replacing this piece is the easiest part. It's everything that goes with it that makes it more difficult. Now, these are H&R lowering springs on Bilstein B8 shocks here. And I don't know how much pressure these are actually under since it is a lowering spring, but I don't want to find out the hard way. So I'd rather be safe, have these on a wall mounted spring compressor and have the strut mount put on very safely, just to make sure it's not going to cause any more damage either to myself or to anything surrounding. I've heard, again, these springs can bounce many feet up in the air. So, okay, we got one off. We'll move to the other side, get that one done, and then we'll get the strut mount assemblies actually disassembled and the new mounts put on top. All right, here we are. This is Naperville Automotive Solutions in Naperville, Illinois. Anyone that's around the area and you're looking for a good mechanic, these guys do it all. They did a ton of work on my Mustang. They do everything from basic oil changes to high performance mods. And these guys are first class. They just moved into this new building here earlier this year. And they just, again, I can't speak highly enough about the work that these guys do. So anyone around the Naperville, Illinois area looking for a good shop, I highly, highly recommend these guys. Jeff Lomberger is the owner. They are all professional, courteous, clean, and very reasonably priced. So out of respect with the pandemic still going on, I'm not going to go inside and video. I don't think that many people are still really interested in that, but we're going to go get the strut mounts. They're in the back of the trunk here. We're going to get these inside and get the new strut mounts on top of the assemblies. So let's get inside, get these taken care of, and then we'll get them back home and get them installed. All right, well, while we're here, it looks like we got another car of interest. So I just wanted to show you while I'm getting my strut mounts done. We've got a nice Turbo S here. So just take a quick peek, show you what's in the parking lot. So this is probably getting ready, getting some inspection or something done to it, but nice looking car. That was a lock, let's unlock. There we go. Very nice Turbo S. Yellow deviated stitching, yellow seat belts, which I always love because it matches the ceramic brakes, right, which is just awesome. So, great car. So we got 28,000 miles. PDK standard, naturally. No manuals for these cars. Got some carbon fiber trim in the center console. Looks like nothing in the dash. I'm assuming the door panels or the dash for that matter. But this is a great looking car. Looks really nice. Black would not necessarily be my #1 choice, but looks like different floor mats too. So yeah, great looking car. Just figured I'd show this real quick. Just an example of something that you might find in the parking lot here at Naperville Automotive Solutions. All right, time for me to get back to work. All right, guys, we're back. This is the fully assembled strut assembly here. And we've got the new Corteco strut mounts on the car, and seems to be perfect. No issues at all. Looking at the two pieces here, the ones that were on the vehicle and then the Corteco replacements, very, very little difference in the structure of the actual strut mount assembly. The fins are all seemingly in the same place. I mean, it looks really, really close to OEM. There's a little bit of a slightly different twist to the housing, the base here. The Corteco seems to flare out a little bit more on this end here, but in general, they look very, very similar as expected. So now that this is done, this is all taken care of, let's go ahead and get this reinstalled on both sides and see how it looks. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this reinstalled now. I'm not gonna talk you through every step of putting it back together. Essentially, it's just gonna be the same process that we did for the uninstall, just in reverse. Gonna start with the right side, the passenger side, and move over to the driver's side, just the exact opposite of how I did it to begin with. So let's see how this goes. I'm gonna fast forward as we go through this so you can see the complete process, but again, not gonna talk you through each step along the way. So here goes nothing. All right, I think we got that pretty much all installed. I'm gonna go around and just double check all of the bolts that I tightened, just to make sure they're all according to spec. I'll be sure to put the torque specs in the link in the description. I'm pretty sure that the top ones I know are 13 foot-pounds. The bottom ones I believe are 48 for the bottom down here underneath all the attachments. And then again, the bolts up here. I know these are going to be set to 13. Give these a quick tighten just so they're on there. And before I do anything else, I'm going to make sure that everything's tightened up again. Top ones are at 13. I'm pretty sure the bottom ones, again, are 48. I just did them with the impact wrench, but didn't have it set to high and didn't really torque them too heavily. Just wanted to get them on. So, all right, let's try and get this finished up and see how it looks. All right, we got everything put back together, torqued everything down, got the wheels back on both sides. So we have our new strut mounts, one right, one left, all ready to go. And this side too. So of course I'm gonna have to road test this, make sure I didn't do anything completely wrong, make sure everything came back normal, and it's not gonna need a major alignment or anything. It shouldn't actually need an alignment, but we're gonna find out. So now what we're gonna do is, the piece I was actually trying to do 2 months ago was get our strut tower brace installed. So let's take a quick look at it here, and I'm gonna get to installing. Again, this should be very simple. The easiest part of it all, take 3 screws off each of the strut mounts that I originally put on just for support, so they're still fairly loose. They're gonna come off very easily. Again, they get torqued down to 16 foot-pounds when done. And we'll go ahead and see what the brace looks like once it's fully installed. All right, so I'm gonna get ready to get the strut tower brace installed. And as you can see, this is officially an ECS tuning strut tower brace. And again, I went for the what they call the black wrinkled aluminum. I thought the black would be better than the real bright non-anodized look, and just being too bright and chrome / silver underneath. So I did choose the black one to make it a little more low-key, I guess. But I don't know that I like the ECS tuning logo on there. So let me see if I can't do something to change that. Hold on. All right, I think it looks better. Those were just stuck on letters, and I just balled them up over here. And although that looks cleaner, I think I can do one step better. Yes, much better, I think. I wouldn't quite call it OEM, not even close, but I like the M Performance sticker better than the ECS tuning. So let's go ahead and get this last piece installed, get the project wrapped up. Again, what started out as just getting the strut tower brace installed by itself turned into be a much larger project than I had anticipated, but let's just finish it up and get it done and see how it looks. All right, here we've got the brace right here, ready to go. Let's get these bolts undone and we'll get this brace installed. As I'm doing this, I'm going to keep these bolts loose, obviously, so that way it can conform to the correct shape, ensuring that it gets onto the grooves correctly. One thing that's nice is the base of each side does have a groove that you can see on the inside or the underside that goes and corresponds to the pre-cut shape on the metal that's already fabricated. And also each of these has a groove made specifically to ensure that the nut goes flat. All right, gonna keep that side loose, head over to the other side. Those are already nice and loose. Just fold that out of the way. Just get each 3 of these nuts on this side installed. There we go. Just gonna get them started with my ratchet, and then we'll move to the torque wrench and get them torqued down after. The other side here. All right, there it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the bolts tightened down, right? So again, each of these needs to be at 16 foot-pounds. I don't know if there's an actual torque rating for these, so I'm just gonna get them nice and tight. So I'll get a wrench and get those tightened. I do not know what size those are, but I'll figure it out and I'll post that in the description below as well, just so you have that for reference. But all you're gonna need are just two open end or crescent wrenches just to get those snugged down. But let me know what you guys think. Is the Strut Tower brace a good addition? Does it look better in the black, or would a chrome or a polished look be better? Personally, I like the black. I think it's a little more subtle, and that's exactly what I was looking for. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All right, so as it turns out, the front nut is a 15 millimeter, the back is a 17. So I'm just gonna use a crescent wrench here and my socket to get these tightened up. Not gonna go too tight so I don't snap it off like I did bolts or the nut for the strut tower. All right, those are nice and snug. What I'll end up doing is obviously driving the car for a while, and I'll double check everything. Make sure everything I did, all the bolts, all the nuts, everything in here, I'm gonna make sure it's all squared away. Everything stays tight, make sure the torque specs, hold after everything is done, and we should be good. So that's the completed look. I think it looks really good. With everything tightened down, I think it gives it a really nice look to the engine bay. All right, let's head into some final thoughts about the upgrades and changes I just did to my car. All right, thanks for watching. What did we learn during this? I guess that's the way I look at it, is when I work on a project, what should I learn? What is something I could do differently? Would I do it again? Yeah, I'd absolutely do it again. One of the things I love about these cars is they're actually pretty easy to work on. Yeah, you run into some snags and there are always some issues that you might learn the first time you do it. For example, this is my first time doing suspension work on this car. And if I had to do it again, I could probably do it in a much shorter amount of time. I learned that I need a new brake hose clamp, a little plastic piece that broke. So I'll be looking for one of these online, see if I can't find one or two of these. That's just a matter of taking off the wheel. This just literally screws into the shock, and it can just screw it in, and then the clip will hold the brake lines with no issues at all. So I'll look for those. Not an emergency. I can drive the car as is, but just want to have that in place just for security. So gonna take the car for a test drive. Make sure, like I said, make sure it drives correctly. Make sure I didn't feel anything, or I don't feel anything that is loose or clunking. Make sure it tracks down the road straight, and everything is fine. Worst case scenario, if something is really off, I'll bring it in for an alignment. It's not going to be all that difficult to do. I know the alignment was spot on before, but I did change the strut mounts, and by doing that, I'm not sure if I messed anything up with any sort of alignment, but we're going to find out. So that's it. Big thanks to Jeff Lomberger and his team at Naperville Automotive Solutions here in Naperville, Illinois. Without them, it would have been a whole lot more difficult and a lot more time consuming and a whole lot more dangerous to try and get those strut mounts off with the tension on those springs. So I want to thank them again for doing that for me. They've been great helping me out with all kinds of larger projects and other things that I certainly can't do myself. So again, if you ever find yourself in the area and need a good mechanic, don't hesitate to go to them, give them a call. I'll link their website in the description below as well, so you can check them out and get in contact with them directly should you need anything regular automotive or even high performance. So thanks again, and just remember, you don't always need a new car. Sometimes just a little doctoring on your existing car goes a long way, makes it feel new. So please like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know if there's anything specific you'd like to see on any one of my cars, and I'll see if I can get that done for you. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, one thing I almost forgot was to do a measurement of the ride height. The car is parked in a very, very similar spot to where it was before. Certainly wherever it's parked is not going to make a difference based on how level the floor is. So let's see what the ride height may have changed, if anything. And we're at 25 1/4, and that's flush. So I would say these strut mounts definitely raised the overall height by 1/4 inch. I don't think that's a lot. This was very, very low to begin with, and 1/4 inch, I don't think it's gonna make enough of a difference. I'm satisfied with the ride height. I don't think I'm gonna worry about it. So I wanna make sure I included that. So if you go with these Corteco strut mounts, you can factor in probably about 1/4 inch difference based on what I assume are OEM, although there's no real marking on the strut mounts I took off. But so 1/4 inch difference.